Hello, I'm TV's Dice Raw. I want to give a shout out to allhiphop.com for keeping hip hop alive while other people try to kill it. We won't mention any names, but hey, you know who we're talking to.
Chandra Sims of allhiphop.com in the studio with Mr. Dice Raw.
Oh yeah.
This is quite a privilege and a pleasure. How are you?
I'm good. Pleasure's on mine, though, I must say.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So first, Dice, let's tell people where we are because I drove to Philadelphia to see you today. So tell me about this studio we're in.
Yeah. Well, you drove to Philadelphia and aftermath of the ice storm we had yesterday.
Yes.
Friday night, which we are very glad to have you.
Thank
we're,
you.
We're in the Root Studio, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now tell me about the history of the studio.
Studio has a lot of history. Since the world famous Larry Gold Studio, you know what I mean? We shared space with Larry for the last 12 years, and it's been a great experience. You know, since I've been here, I basically, if I don't have a show or I don't go on vacation or something like that, I'm usually in this building every day, and I've been coming to this building every day since 1999 almost.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So tell me about just Philadelphia. While we're here, let's set the backdrop for people. I did a story last week and I talked about the sound of Philadelphia, which was sort of that old school term they gave for like guys like Gamble and Huff and everything. Yeah. But I would say the Roots is part of the sound of Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, like I definitely say like Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff stole a lot of stuff from me and the Roots. You know what I mean? Like far as like, you know, music wise and all that, you know what I mean? Nah, seriously though, yeah. It's an honor to be mentioned with names like that. You know, thank you. You know what I'm saying? To be mentioned with, you know, Mr. Gamble and Mr. Huff, you know, Bunny Siegler, Larry Gold. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's definitely an honor. It also made me feel old too, but you know, it's definitely an honor.
But you're not old if you're still doing it, because you're still relevant.
No, you're as old as you feel. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so usually I feel like I'm 9 years old. You know, 10 and a half, something like that. But
now, thinking of rap in Philadelphia, the scene has changed over the years, and there was like a golden era here in Philadelphia, but things are changing. So what would you say, you know, how would you classify the rap scene here in Philadelphia now?
Well, to me personally, the rap scene in Philly has kind of always been the same. You know what I mean? Like in the early 90s when I was rapping, you know, I always had a certain kind of underground buzz, but the biggest rappers in Philly to me was Ram Squad, you know what I mean? And even before then, when I was coming up, when I was really, really young, it was 100X. So, and even though I may have had a little buzz or whatever, or I may have been hearing about Tariq or Amir, me not knowing them at this point, though, you know what I'm saying? But just hearing just different things about different people in the streets, you know, like Chief Kamachi and, you know, people like that were like the Hunters, you know what I'm saying? People like that was on the underground circuit back then. So for me, it's kind of like, you know, I went through 100X was top. Then I went through Ram Squad was the top. Then we had, you know, Major Figures was running things for a second. Then you had, you know, the Rock whole thing when Beanie Siegel and all those guys came in, P.D. Crack, you know what I mean? Like they ran Philly hip hop. And at this point, we were making records, but we weren't really respected like they were in Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? Now everywhere else, you know, motherfuckers was like, I walked on the street, people like, yo, thanks, Ron, what you doing in my city? Or something like that. I walk down around here, people don't even notice me, you know what I mean? So it's like that kind of thing. And now I think we're in a Meek Mill era, you know what I'm saying? Like now the streets of Philadelphia, they belong to Meek Mill. And it's the same thing. It's like, you know, people know who I am, but it's no big deal. You know?
You know, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that because you guys are definitely Philadelphia, I mean in the Roots, but you sort of transcended your city and you're kind of more of a global group.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So tell me about, you know, that journey from when you met Tariq and Amir to you know, seeing the world with the Roots.
Well, it's crazy when I met Tariq and Amir because, I didn't really go to school like that. I was like, you know, in and out of school, and you know, I really wasn't, you know, into my studies. You know what I mean? So I lived by myself in an apartment in Los Angeles, working with Ronnie and Ricky from Belle Biv DeVoe around like 1991. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. I might have been about like 12, 13 years old, something like that. But I had my own apartment out there in L.A. And,
You're kidding?
No, I'm dead serious. And when I came back to Philly, I was out there for a little while. When I came back to Philly, I ran into the Roots due to the same person who introduced me to Ricky and Ronnie. His name was Kilo. He met me at a talent show in Philadelphia when I was like, you know, 12, 13, you know what I mean, something like that. So I was riding with Kilo, and Kilo knew this guy named Richard, and Richard was the Roots manager. Right. So at this point, when we went to California, you know, there was no Roots, you know what I mean?
Right.
But while we were out there, the Roots had developed, and they had came out with the song, you know, with the album Organics.
Right.
And they sent that to him in L.A., and we would listen to it. I was like, yo, man, these dudes is dope. You know what I'm saying? So when I came back to Philly, I never linked up with them or nothing like that. I just knew about them from this music, you know, from this Organics. My man Kilo, who discovered me, he came back to Philadelphia and was staying in a hotel. And the Roots had just got signed. So he was like, yo, the Roots got a record deal. Come down. I want to introduce you to them.
Right.
So at this point, I'm about 15 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like the day after Christmas. And it's funny because I had just went to their show. The Roots had a show. And I was just in the audience just watching the show. Like, damn, these motherfuckers is dope. You know what I'm saying? They had Jay with the Damager come through. I mean, it was like, you know, it was a big deal to me because I was 15 years old. So I'm watching these guys perform. And then 2 days later, Kilo called me and says, yo, come down. I want you to meet these dudes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was like, word. So I go down there, and that's pretty much it. It's history after that.